Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Hi there, thanks for stopping by the Lawyer on Air podcast. Have you ever been inspired to pursue a career by watching a TV show? Well, my guest today, Shiho Kagasaki, certainly was. She told me that Legal High, a Japanese TV comedy about the law, was one of her early influences in becoming a lawyer. And that got me thinking, what were my influences? Well, for me, I certainly loved detective and crime series, solving mysteries, uncovering clues, and piecing together the truth. Writing secret codes with my younger brother was a favourite childhood pastime, and I devoured Enid Blyton books. And now I can't get enough of BBC's crime dramas. If you know any good ones, please let me know. And in a way, being a lawyer isn't so different from being a detective. We investigate, we analyse, and we build a case based on the evidence we uncover. And that's why I also love Shiho's approach to law exams. She didn't just answer the questions. She stepped into the role of a lawyer. She imagined herself in a lawyer's suit, advocating for the client, and even treated the examiner as her adversary, someone that she had to convince with her argument. Honestly, that's such a brilliant mindset tip for law students. Visualizing yourself in the role can help you to aspire to be truly powerful and build your confidence. So whether you're a law student or a practicing lawyer, or you're just curious about the world of law, I hope this episode sparks some inspiration for you. And here's my call to action for you. Think about the persona that you want to step into, and how can you embody that today? Okay, let's get into the episode with Shiho Kagasaki. Hello, Shiho, and welcome to the Lawyer on Air podcast.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's so good to have you here. Finally, I've been tracking you down. So imagine we are out for a drink together. Where are we and what's your order?
Well, this time I thought to introduce you to a new different restaurant in Ginza in Japan. It's called Nyorosuke. It's a unagi specialist and they make the best unagi meals, and I will love you to try there. This is just an amazing restaurant that I would love everyone to try if they have an opportunity.
Fantastic. Unagi is eel, right? And
yes, eel.
If there's any place to have eel, it's Japan.
Absolutely, yes.
And I never really experienced eel in the way that I did in Japan. And I think often grilled with a lot of, a sauce, and then on top of rice is one of the big foods to battle the hot summer, right?
Absolutely. And this restaurant have a omakase course, or a course where they serve you with different styles and different cooking styles of unagi.
Great. Well, let's put that link in the show notes. But I know you're going to have a drink when you're having unagi. So what's your go-to on that? Like, do you leave it for the chef, like the omakase, or what do you choose?
I
don't know what the combination is for unagi. What's a great combination?
To be honest, that's exactly my same response. So I just leave it up for the chefs to, make a decision. But ultimately, in Australia have really great wineries. So I tend to drink wine when I can in Australia or wherever. And even when I'm in Japan, looking at wine menu, they tend to be a lot of Australian wines on the list. So I usually just go wild rate depending on what I order on that day.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I love an Australian wine. I'm feeling like an Australian, maybe a South Australia Riesling would be really good to cut through some of the oil of the unagi. Anyway, we're getting technical, but I would always say yes to an Australian wine as well as New Zealand wine, of course. But yes, indeed, you are in Australia right now, and that's where you're working, and we'll get into that in a moment. So I really want to thank you again for joining me. I know that we'll be diving into your career journey, any mentorship experiences you might have had, your transition from Japan, indeed, to Australia. And I know that you're heavily involved in the Australia-Japan Businesswomen's Network, AJBWN. That's a hard one. So I'd love to talk with you about those things. And, I'd really appreciate your career wisdom and personal reflections along the way. Also, I know that you do ballet. And so I can't wait to actually hear about how ballet influences your approach to law. But we'll keep that for a moment. Are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. And Catherine, about ballet, I love it so much. I can talk for hours.
Okay. So let's go back to your early life there and inspiration. Growing up in Japan, as I believe you did, what experiences or influences led you to start thinking about a career in law?
I actually left Japan when I was quite young, and I actually lived in Hawaii for a little bit. Then I moved to New Zealand, and then I came to Australia over 10 years ago. So I have been out and about for quite some time, which is why you may pick up my American accent here and there sometimes. Although when I go to Hawaii or back in the States, they do tell me I still do have a strong Australian accent.
Well, it's good to keep people guessing on the accent side of things. I had this conversation recently how coming to Japan, I've had to really adjust my typical New Zealand accent, that when I get back home to New Zealand, I am obviously ramping it up. But when I'm in Japan, I have to be quite careful who I'm speaking with to slightly adjust it so it's understandable for people. You went out of Japan early, Hawaii, New Zealand, thank you, and Australia. But what happened that got you into law?
So my mother actually told me not to say this, but the reality of it is I watched a Japanese comedy TV series many years ago, and their life looked so much fun. At that time, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. And when I watched the drama series, I thought, oh, maybe this can be my future. So a few months later, I applied for law school, got into law school, and I have loved my life ever since.
Whoa. So hang on a minute. The Japanese comedy was about law or lawyers?
It was a TV series called Legal High. I don't know if you have heard
Legal
of it.
High. I've heard some rumor of it. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I think that's a great thing. Hey, Mum, I think it's a great thing. Why not be influenced? And we often are in some way by the books we read, podcasts we listen to, and TV is a real influencer. It's the early days influencer, isn't it? So,
Yes.
wow. Okay. So you started law and it was the way for you. You loved it.
I loved it. I think mom was expecting more professional answer, but that's initially what got me into law. And by way of background, in that TV show, the main character never loses. So
I love it. Never losing. Yeah.
Never loses. But when I got into law school, I think it was the best decision I've made. I think what's so great about law, at least when I was studying, there is no one size fit all sort of answer. There is no right or wrong as long as you articulate your position and you know enough law to respond to whatever the hypothetical or the question is.
It does. I mean, law is what they sometimes say an art and a science. So there is a science part to it. There are some definite yeses and definite nos, but there's a whole lot of grey in between. And I think you're right. Saying it that no one size fits all. That's a really great descriptor of the law. Was there a big aha moment during that study period that you thought, yeah, I'm really doing the right thing? Was there a case you listened to, or maybe one of the lecturers or the professors said something to you that really sticks with you today that you remember from those study days?
On my first day of law school, actually the first class, the lecturer said to me, when you become a lawyer, expect that more than half of the global population will not become your friend just because of what you do. And I think she was making reference to the plaintiff and defendant and all of that. But what I liked was when I actually sat the exam, the hypotheticals we had in exam was so realistic. And before becoming a lawyer, I got to, I guess, put on my lawyer hat at the time and see to what extent and to how I can protect my client or work in the best interest for my client. And I thought that was the most exciting part of the whole legal industry.
I think you've actually picked up a really great point I've not heard anyone say, is that you're already thinking with a lawyer hat on while you're studying as a law student. I can honestly say I never thought about myself as a lawyer in the room when I'm learning the law. That's brilliant. I love how you did that.
Oh, thank
And
you.
that's obviously why you could see the hypotheticals in the exam as realistic. For me, they seemed like they were happening to somebody else over there, not something that I could actually grab onto. They felt too distant from me, shall we say. So I love what you've said is that you actually found that it was something you could make yourself believe that you were a lawyer in that moment, and how would I act as a lawyer with my client in front of me? That's really insightful.
Because I think at the end of the day, you're advocating for a client no matter which area of law you're in. And as a law student, you're advocating against your lecturer or whoever the person marking a paper is. So regardless of whether you have a law degree or not, I think the goal at the end of the day is the same.
And again, advocating against the person who's marking your paper.
Yes.
Amazing. So you're trying to persuade them, definitely, right? You've got to think of
Yes.
who that person is. How incredible. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. And I wish I had you by my side back then, and I could have thought about studying and doing the exams a little differently. I guess because for me, maybe you can tell me in your situation, but I feel like I didn't have any lawyers in my immediate background. I had a cousin who'd done law and another cousin who'd done law but dropped out. And I think I didn't really have a fixed sense of what a lawyer was or know anybody in the law, aside from my professors, I guess. But tell me, did you have anyone in your surroundings who was also a lawyer that you could sort of engage with or look up to?
No, I actually didn't. I'm the first lawyer in the family. Again, I think the whole TV series just got me
Got
into a
inside
whole.
you. Yeah, that is really amazing. How does your mum think now about you as a lawyer?
Oh, she's very happy. I mean, I guess she will be happy no matter what I do, as long as I'm happy. Both my parents are very proud of, I think, what I do.
Cool. That's really great. And so you were then admitted as a lawyer in Australia. In which state?
In Queensland.
Right. And you've been practicing there ever since. What happened after you left law school? Tell me.
After law school, I got into a graduate role at a plaintiff law firm. So the law firm focused on personal injury claims. It was a firm called Little Lawyers, and I think it's a growing firm. I think then they now have offices in Europe and Asia as well, and they will always have a special place in my heart. I love them a lot. I was there for about 4 years and a bit in total. And at the time, I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to pursue personal injury for, I guess, rest of my life or try other areas of law. At the same time, I was actually doing volunteering work for a community legal center. And through that, because it is a community legal center, you get exposure to various areas of law, including criminal law, family law, and everything. I'm really glad I got those experience, but those areas wasn't for me. And I think by that time, when I was in my final few months of littles, I knew that insurance law litigation was something I wanted to do. And then I was reached out by a firm to join the class actions team. So I was in them for a while, but I wanted to do something more beyond that. And then a few months later down the track, I ended up being at MinterEllison, which is where I'm currently now. And I currently am in the corporate risk and insurance team here in Australia.
Well, it's really interesting too that you do a lot of different kinds of law, like as you said, criminal and family. And through doing those experiences, you appreciate them. Maybe not at the time because they're quite tough areas of law, but it does help you to decide what you don't want to do. And that's also really important to know, isn't it? As you're studying law, what you want to do is one thing, but also what you really don't want to do is also good to know.
Absolutely. I think I just wanted to make sure that what I'm doing is what I want to do and to become a specialist in that field. Just because, what if 20 years later I look back and think, oh, what if I did criminal law or family law, which I had zero exposure to, and I just didn't want to do that. So I just made sure that I am satisfied with my future plans and what I want to do as a lawyer.
Right. Well, have you come across any places or people who've thought something about a lawyer and you sort of change their view on what a lawyer is? It's quite common for people to have misconceptions about what it's like to be a lawyer. How have you found that?
In terms of as an insurance lawyer, which is what I am currently at Minters, a lot of people think that we're just claims people. So, dealing with slip and trip or car accidents, all of that. But it's actually more than that. So, of course, we still deal with these personal injury types of claims on the defendant side, actually, at Minters. So we act for insurance corporations and education providers and such. But we do more like directors and officers liability, dealing with ESG, product liability, insurance regulatory, policy interpreting and drafting, commercial insurance, and the list goes on. But it's beyond the whole claim space. And I think a lot of people tend to think of that when I first say I work in the insurance space.
Right. So they've got an idea in their mind and you've got to try and help them to let them know, hey, it's a bit broader than that. And this is
Absolutely.
what we do as well. I see. That's interesting. Have you had any challenges there in your initial legal career, I would say that? Because I know a lot of people listening to this will be listening to you and have clicked on your episode because they want to hear about your early life and starting out. I mean, I really want the person in my life who was someone like you, right, who's starting out, and I wish I'd had you in my back pocket when I was younger. Is there something you can help people with, perhaps a challenge that you faced when you started out that might help them get through something? You may have something like that you can share with us.
I think one of the things I wish I knew back in my first year of lawyer is that lawyer is obviously a lawyer, but it's more than that. It's also business. And that's something I wish uni has told me, which they obviously is not a place where they tell you these kind of things. But you have to grow your network, do business. It doesn't really mean that you have to bring in $1 billion matter to your firm, but getting to know the broader people in your community, not just within your law firm, and see how you can assist them, how you can help them. And, you may be working for a, smaller law firm or big law firm. So the scale of the person you're providing guidance to or your legal service to may be one individual or a company, but at the end of the day, they are reaching out to you for your legal guidance. And that is also, I guess, in the context of business. And I think that's something I wish I knew, just because I did not have that idea in my mind when I first became a lawyer.
And I love how you've mentioned getting out there and growing your network. So how did you actually do that? How did you get out and grow your network? And I'd love to know what you use as your opening networking question.
I love networking and meeting new people. So how I started was, through the community legal center that I was volunteering at. There's a lot of lawyers from different law firms and different backgrounds. As you connect with them, you explain about yourself, your future goals. And I also ask basically what you've asked me today, like what made you become a lawyer? Why did you choose that field? What do you like about your area of whatever you do? And that kind of opens up the space. And then you talk obviously less serious things, casual fun things, because, all the conversation you have with your contact shouldn't be too serious. Otherwise it would just be boring. I've also created lunch groups and coffee groups after I got to grow my network through my community centers. And then whenever there's an opportunity to meet people, I go, even if it's just by yourself or with a friend. It's sometimes easier if you go with a friend or someone you know, but over many years, you just get used to the concept of just going and meeting new people. Networking is one of the best thing I do day to day through my work.
So useful. I mean, the legal centre work is something that many students might say, oh, I can't be bothered doing that. Or, new grads, new people into the law firm. But it's just what you said. It's the place where other lawyers hang out and you can practice by
Absolutely.
asking those very safe questions that I also ask you at the beginning of a podcast, is because they're safe, right? Why did you get into law? What do you like about the law? It makes you feel comfortable. Then we can go into more in-depth topics. So I think the way you've done that is great and amazing. Setting up lunch groups and coffee groups. That takes effort because people will join a group quite readily if someone else organizes it. But you're kind of sounding to me like an organizing type, and you love doing it, and you like meeting people, so you like bringing them together.
I absolutely do. I love creating events, and I love getting people together. I guess the contacts you've made when you're younger, even as a grad or even when you're paralegal or law clerk, most of them would continue to be a lawyer and they'll end up in a senior role, I guess, eventually, 10 years, 20 years down the track. They may be someone who can help you or who can guide you later down the track or vice versa. And regardless of their seniority or which area of law or which career they're in, it's very important to stay connected, keep in with your network. And obviously you have to be professional, but not too serious with your conversations. Just be quite general, casual, flexible, if that makes sense, to create a great bond with your contacts.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you've said it before with starting with the established usual questions, but also not keeping it there. Be fun and also talk about casual things, but not only concentrate on those. So good sort of recipe is a bit of a mix of doing that. And I loved how you also mentioned finding the opportunity to go and meet people and going with somebody. And the real benefit and trick of going with someone is not because they're there with you to keep you company, which might be the obvious thought. It's because you can introduce somebody and you can practice introducing them to someone else. It takes the spotlight off you, and it enables you to be an introducer, a community connector person as well. So have you found that's to be the case for you? Because that's how I do it. I'll meet somebody or take somebody to an event, and I'm going to do that this Thursday actually, and introduce them.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I do. And also sometimes if that person you're, I guess, networking is in a specific industry and you have no knowledge on that space, maybe the friend you take with you have good knowledge on that in that space. And that kind of helps you, I guess, progress through conversations or whatever you're doing with them. So I think it's always a good chance to bring someone with you that may make the conversation flow easier as well.
Yeah, that's a great comment there, is that you have somebody there who's knows something better than you do. So you're not talking about yourself, you're helping them promote themselves, and you learn from what they say as well, which is really great. Have you found aspects of your, say, Japanese culture or your work ethic have helped you to have some sort of advantage in these networking situations or in your legal field back at the office?
In Japan, we have something called Omotenashi.
Yes.
Yes. So how do I explain it? It's basically you think about your guests or people around you first without expecting to receive something in return. I don't know if I explained that okay, but I think that's a definition of Omotenashi. And meeting people, networking, and even in your office, your clients, traditionally we think about people first and how we can, I guess, satisfy their needs and think about clients first before I do anything.
Yeah, omotenashi is indeed that. And I haven't heard it described as thinking about your guests first without expecting in return, but it absolutely is. It's the giver's mindset. There's books about it as well. Is not really going into networking or talking with a group of people or wherever you might be in the workplace and expecting something or asking for it. You give first and then receive. So I think you've captured omotenashi absolutely well. And if that's a Japanese concept in your mind that's helping you the way you connect with people, that's really going to work very well. So you mentioned a little bit before, but I'd like some more information about maybe mentors who may have been across your journey so far and perhaps impacted your career. Are there any people out there you'd like to mention who have been that kind of person for you? Maybe at the time you didn't know they were a mentor. Looking back, you can see that they are. Well, maybe there's someone around you at the moment.
I have so many wonderful mentors. I really do. And if I am to name all of them, I would probably take up this entire podcasting space. I currently report to a partner. His name is Kingsley Brennan at Minters. He's also my supervising partner for my Japan insurance practice. And he has just been the most wonderful person. Obviously, as a supervising partner, but as well as a mentor. He's given me so many opportunities to grow my career. He's someone who actually listens to what I want and actually comes back with a strategy plan on how to tackle that. I don't know how he does what he does. He is the busiest person I know, but he managed to do all of this really quickly. And I think he's like you. Also, he wears many hats and just excels at all of them. So, eventually down the track, maybe 20 or 30 years later, I want to be someone like Hemsley. He is an amazing supervisor that I actually really do look up to in my legal industry.
Is there a piece of advice that he's perhaps given you that's really resonated? And it may not be on a structural way to do your work, but it might be a how to do your work. I'm interested to know what it is about him that makes him more than your supervisor, but actually a mentor, because that's a different step, isn't it? That's someone who really wants you to grow and become the best person and lawyer that you can be. So is there anything particularly that he's said or done for you that has resonated so well with you?
When I go to him with a problem or, I guess something that I want to work out, then he will actually give me ideas as to how to tackle it, but doesn't say you need to do this. He actually says, maybe this is a good idea, maybe that's a good idea. What do you think? And I think that really helps me navigate through what I want. He's actually told me just to stay strong, focus on your goal, and that's actually helped me navigate through what I want and what I want to do in my professional career.
Excellent. So yeah, giving you ideas how to tackle, letting you have some sovereignty, I guess, over what you decide might be a great idea, and then come back to him with several solutions or a solution. And then he can probably give you the guiding arm at the very end. That's really interesting. Well, now that you're further along in your career, what's a piece of advice you wish you could have given to yourself back then when you started?
Just believe in yourself and go with your gut is an advice I would give to myself, because I don't know if it's just me or everyone else in the industry, but sometimes you second guess whether what you're doing is what you should be doing. But I think at the end of the day, I'm looking back and I would not change a thing that I've done. I loved everything I've done, regardless of the bumps that I may have faced.
Yeah, is there any time you can share when you, maybe as an example, didn't quite go with your gut or didn't believe in yourself and you did second guess yourself?
No, surprisingly, Catherine, I actually went with my gut.
How did you know to do that from the get-go? You just did.
I just did, surprisingly, miraculously. I just went with my gut. I don't know, what if I chose option B? I may have had some other wonderful life, but I do not regret, I think, every option I've made in my life to get to this stage. And because of that, I've met with Hemsley, I've met with wonderful people at Minters, including my team up here in Brisbane as well, and wonderful network. And, as I think we'll discuss a little bit later down the track, but my involvement with AJBWN as well. So I've made a right choice in terms of what I've done to date.
Yes, well, we will talk about AJBWN in a moment. I just want to talk about ballet first, though, because you're a total ballet enthusiast. And I'm so curious to know if you have actually found some parallels between ballet and law.
Oh, absolutely, Catherine. Again, I can talk about this for hours. But I started as an adult just a few months before my admission. So I've been dancing classical ballets over 7 years now. And I think at the time when I started, I was working so much as a grad, I guess just because I wanted to get better at what I do. Then one day I realized that my day-to-day is just revolving around work. There is nothing else. So I wanted a hobby that I can concentrate on and get better on and do something in addition to my legal work. So I Googled adult hobby one day and then found ballet on top of the list. And that's how I got into it. And the concept with ballet, it takes a lot of patience and focus, and you don't really have time to think anything else other than what you're doing in a studio. So even when you do a simple plie, I don't know how to explain that in a non-ballet term, but...
Is it a simple stance or a hold or a position?
It's a position.
Right.
It's like a position, squat, but in a ballet beautiful form. I don't know how to better explain that. So you have to Google what plie is.
How do you
And
spell that? Can you tell me?
Plie.
Ah, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just a simple plie or stretching at the bar as part of your bar practice. It's not as simple as it sounds. You have to focus on every muscle of your body, gravity, movement, core position, the direction, even where your face is facing, and just make sure to smile and to look effortless at the same time. And then when you do it on point shoes, that's a different story. That's harder. But I guess at the end of the day, how it resonates with my legal practice is that it takes a lot of patience, again, focus, and you just have to look effortless. You have to look like a professional no matter in which space you are, even if you're unconfident in your solution or your answers, just have to look proud lawyer at any given time, if that makes sense. And one of the things that my ballet teacher, she's a wonderful woman, she always says, don't compare to a person next to you. Stand firmly at the bar, believe in yourself, and everyone was a beginner once upon a time. And that's something that I resonate with, because I think that's the same in any profession. Just be confident in what you do is something that I resonate with in terms of my career as well.
So it's quite precise and you have to focus. And you said it was a hobby. So how is it fun for you? Is it fun, or is it just leveraging the precision and the focus that you need for your work, but it's in a different way because you're using your body and you're not thinking so much with your brain focused on legal work? Tell me a bit more about that. What is it that's sort of linking the two together? Is it that precision focus, looking effortless, but actually having a lot of focus and patience to get you there?
It's all of that, of basically what you just listed. I guess in the legal space, there are days where you, or at least I, struggle or stress over something. There are moments like that in ballet as well, obviously a little bit in a different context. But I guess what Georgia always says is, through with elegance and then move through life with grace is what she said. I don't want to look like, a crazy lawyer running around 365 days a year, but I want to look, an elegant, graceful lawyer with a lot of patience and consistency. And regardless of whether you're a lawyer or ballerina or something else, I think that will get to your end goal of where you want to be as a professional.
Yeah, I've got it now. The working through something with elegance and grace, patience and consistency, because we need that not only in ballet, we need it in law, and we need it in anything that we are doing. And I'm sure you're also bringing that through to the Australia-Japan Business Women's Network, which we can talk about now if you'd like. Recently, I think you took on the co-lead for the Queensland chapter for the AJBWN.
Correct, yes.
Congratulations on that. What inspired you to take up this leadership position itself? And also, I guess you're invited to do that. But back in the day when you started with this organization, what led you? Although I think I know the answer because you love networking and growing your network and making new contacts. But is there something particular about this organization that drew you to it?
So AJBWN actually, I think, launched last year. So it's quite still new. And I believe this is our second year. And because I just became a co-chair this year, I haven't had too much involvement with the events organizing part, but we are growing with about 700 members across Australia and Japan. And we do functions in person and online. And what drew me to join it is, like you said, the networking part. And I guess the second part is I wanted to do something that have connection with Australia and Japan. With my bilingual fluency in Japanese, I just wanted to do something that I can navigate using my skills in that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
How does working with AJBWN complement and enhance your role then at where you work? Are they tying in together?
Yes. So there are a lot of Japanese and Australian corporations involved in AJBWN. And because through Minters, I think what I didn't mention previously was whilst I do work for the insurance practice, I actually also work for the Japan practice within Minters, What that means is that I do actually do have contacts and clients in Japan or Australian clients who have dealings with Japanese businesses. Sometimes, for example, if a client needs something, but you have no expertise, then my contact at AJBWM may be able to help that. So, and vice versa. So I think that's something that I can utilize moving forward. That's one. But also being able to assess the journey of my clients or my members at AJBWM to grow their connection with Japan or Australia through our group.
Do you encourage other young law students or first, second year lawyers to get into volunteering like you have?
Oh, absolutely. Regardless of whether, well, I guess it's a lawyer on air podcast, it's to do with lawyers, but regardless of whether you're not a lawyer or whether you don't want to be a lawyer, I still encourage everyone to network. It's never too early, too late to start these things. And the more people you know sometimes can be better. Of course, just, don't go networking with someone just random off the street, but, go networking with someone with a particular group that you are interested in. I think that's very important.
All right. So as well as the things you've talked about there, I think oftentimes when we start out in law and as we move through, we do come across obstacles and also advantages. So I'm really keen to know if there are some advantages or obstacles that have come up in your career and how you've managed them and learnt from them and leveraged them to your benefit.
So what I've learned is when you come through an obstacle, I used to tend to try to solve it with perfectionism on my own. But speaking to, I guess, your supervisors or your broader team to get their ideas and guidance would really help you navigate through the obstacles that you may have with whatever you're dealing with. I am, as with many other lawyers, are perfectionist. And I think you just want to show that you can deal something by yourself. But sometimes sharing ideas with others can really help you get to where you want to achieve in terms of, I guess, providing best outcome for a client or whatever you're dealing with.
I think also bringing out your points from before, being, elegant, having elegance and grace. Yes. And often that doesn't come to us right in the moment. And all we can do is just at least be patient or consistent and be careful in that moment. But it's afterwards that I think gives us the really good opportunity to be able to talk with our colleagues, right? Forget about what's going on in the moment, because it's often so difficult to balance all the things that are going on in that particular moment, whether it be with a client meeting or with other people in a meeting. And so afterwards is often the best chance for us to show what we can do and how we can talk with others and then make another effort or a different effort for the contributions to the next meeting, right? Discussing with your colleagues how it could be approached, or explain to them, hey, next time I'd really like to be able to say this thing. Can you help me do that? Can we talk about those sorts of things? So what I'm saying is often in the moment, carrying yourself with grace and elegance is good, but you can't always overcome the particular problem at that point. There's other things going on that have to be done in that moment. But afterwards, as you say, you've got your colleagues and supervisor to talk with and get ideas and find some inspiration there.
I agree. And also sometimes, or I don't know if it's just me, but I tend to look at a problem bigger than it actually is. So sometimes speaking with others, you get to see the reality of the actual issue. An issue you thought was extremely huge may not be that important or that significant just because others have dealt with a similar or the same issue previously and they already have answers to that.
Right, exactly. Has there been anything in your career so far that sort of made you feel, back to where you were thinking about coming into law and really loving it? I know you do, but is there some point now coming through your career that you've thought, I really made it. I love this. I know I'm on the right path. Is there something that's happened, perhaps even recently, that's your defining moment in your career so far?
In the future, I do want to work internationally because I do speak Japanese. I do want to continue to use that in my line of work and do something where I can help my clients or contact clients in Japan.
I think Japan needs you back here. You're the kind of spirit and energy that I think we need in the legal profession in Japan. And I'd really love to see you come back here and start your international career from Japan as your base. You know, it's a place you can get a lot of work. But future goals then, working internationally. If I had a magic wand and I could say, look, you can go and do that, whatever you want to do, what do you think would your dream be for work or for the organization AJBWN?
I guess in terms of AJBWN, I want to grow the organization as much as possible. I think it's a really wonderful place for people to meet. And again, network probably might be the topic for the day, but we do have chapters in Tokyo and Osaka as well at the moment. And it's not just a place where you go have lunch and coffee or drinks, but it's where you also can share knowledge, educate others as well, and share experience. And this group is not just for lawyers, it's for any woman or of any gender in any profession. So you can be a university lecturer or you can be working for the government. And I think listening to other people's stories are extremely interesting, which is also why I love listening to your podcast. I actually do listen to your podcast quite a lot. And as I was just telling you earlier, I was listening to it on a hike the other day.
On that, I know you have been following the Lawyer on Air podcast for a while, and I know that you mentioned to me earlier, I think you know a few guests like Mindy and Carlotta. What was it that allowed you to give the gift to yourself to say yes to coming on the show today? And have you enjoyed yourself?
I love talking with you. I actually think I say yes because I just want to talk to you and see what it's like to be on a podcast and be interviewed. And I think this was a great opportunity to again network with you and meet you as well.
I see great future for you. Before we wrap up, is there anything perhaps on your mind from the conversation we have had today? Maybe something you'd like to reinforce or another final thought you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I do. It's again coming from my ballet group, but what Georgia Dostal, my ballet teacher, says is keep your spirits and retre high. So retre, I don't think I'm pronouncing it correctly, it's a French term, but it's a leg position, just keep it high, but keep your spirits high. I think it's something I would like to keep as a motto. Whatever I do, if you keep your spirits high, if you keep your goals, intention, everything as your ultimate goal, I think that will help you, whether you're having a good day, bad day, whatever you're going through.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, keep your spirits high. Absolutely. Well, let's finish up with a few quick fire questions. I know you've listened to the podcast many times, so you know these are coming, but you don't know what particular questions I'm going to ask. If you do have a book that you've read or another podcast that you've listened to, can you share those with us?
Yes. So you are going to think that I'm a ballet nerd, and I'm pretty sure I've drawn a picture to you already today. But my favorite podcast is the Balanced Ballerinas podcast, which is directed by the ballet teacher of my ballet school. She talks about, it's just not for ballerinas, but he also talks about, how to strive for progression, professionalism, moving through life with grace and all of that in her podcast. So I do encourage people to listen to it, whether or not you are interested in the ballet space.
Wow, amazing. I don't think you're a nerd. I think you just love what you're doing. And early on in the podcast, Aramide Fields, I'm not sure if you've listened to her podcast, but she loves dancing, and I'm sure she'd love to hear about this podcast. So Aramide, get your ears on that one and see what it's like and let us know. So if you were going to have the opportunity to spend a day with somebody, they could be past or still living, anybody famous, not famous, who would you want to spend that day with and why?
I would love to spend a day with the CEO of my firm and see what she does on day to day. I know she is the busiest person alive, but I want to see how she navigates her day-to-day life as a lawyer and also as a CEO of her company. And the second person I would love to see is any ballet professional, seeing their daily routine, how they practice, and how they navigate through their day, I think it would just really be interesting to see someone's day-to-day life.
Shadowing the CEO and shadowing a ballet professional. Wow, amazing.
Absolutely.
Goodness me, that's so good. And just anything that someone listening here doesn't know about you. Maybe even it's Kingsley or your ballet teacher. They may listen to this and go, I never knew that about her. It could be something really, really small, a food you love or something else. We all know that you love ballet and that you love your work. Is there something else that people don't know about you?
Well, Kingsley doesn't know I like ballet, so here we go.
Oh, there you go. That's a big reveal for you, Kingsley.
But I love traveling so much. I think COVID sort of got in the way a few years ago, but I try to do 1 year, one new country when I visit places. That's my travel theme every year.
Well, there you go. And as you said, you listen to this podcast up on the hills of Hong Kong. So
I did.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Shiho, we've reached the end of our chat. I think it's been just fabulous talking with you. I know that you're going to keep your spirits high and dance your way right through to success. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
And for people who would like to get in touch with you, maybe ask you for support, how they can do ballet, how they can work like you do, how can they get in touch?
I do have LinkedIn, so I'm happy for people to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Sure. So go ahead and do a really nice connecting message. Don't just link to people. Like, tell them that you heard Shiho on the podcast and that you're connecting with her. And I'm sure you'll click yes after they do that. So we'll put that into the show notes for people to look at. And to our listeners out there, please do, if you loved this episode and it's inspired you, please give it to somebody else. Send it to them, let them listen to it so that they can also get enriched and live with grace as they have been hearing from Shiho. And if you're looking for someone who wants to give you some coaching on more of these topics, you can always know that you can come to me, and if I'm somebody who's a good match for you, we can be very supportive on your journey. That's all for today. I'll see you back here on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.